years ago, I was white-knuckling my way through no contact with my ex. Last night, he proposed. Not my ex. The man who showed up exactly when I'd stopped believing anyone would. Let me back up. My ex and I were together for 3 years. He had what I can only describe as avoidant attachment, which is a clinical way of saying he made me feel chosen on his good days and invisible on his bad ones. When it ended, I convinced myself I would never find anything like what we had. I romanticized every good memory and buried every bad one, and spent 2 years building a version of him in my head that was better than the real person ever was. I joined a breakup support group online because I was embarrassed to talk about it with anyone who actually knew me. Posted once about how it was somehow harder at the 2-year mark than it had been at the beginning. Someone in the comments said the heart wants what it wants. I appreciated that, even though it didn't help. What I didn't post was that I had unblocked him, that I was checking his profile, that I had drafted and deleted 17 messages, but that I was genuinely considering sending the 18th. Then I went on a first date. A friend had set us up and I almost canceled 3 times. I got to the venue early and was standing near the entrance, doing that thing where you check your phone so you look busy, and that's when I saw him, my ex, across the room, drink in hand, already looking at me. We made eye contact for a long moment. I could tell he wanted to come over. Part of me wanted him to. The part that had spent 2 years keeping a candle lit for someone who never deserved the fire. Then my date walked in. He was taller than his photos and somehow better looking in person, which is not something that ever happens. He found me immediately, smiled like he'd been looking forward to this all week, and when the bartender asked what he was drinking, he said water because he knew I didn't drink and didn't want me to feel weird about it. He just said it casually, like it was nothing, like consideration was just something he did automatically. We talked for 4 hours. I barely thought about my ex once. We've been together almost 2 years now. He is the kind of person who remembers things I mentioned once in passing and brings them up 3 weeks later. Who checks in without being asked. Who makes me feel like being loved is supposed to feel easy, not like something you earn on a sliding scale depending on someone else's mood. Last week I noticed things. He bought 2 new button-up shirts, one for the botanical garden date he planned and one for dinner after. He booked the dinner reservation over a month ago and kept telling me he wanted us to get dressed up even if it was a little over the top for a Tuesday. He asked me where my favorite spot in the gardens was, casually, like he was just curious. Then I watched him try on pants in the closet, doing these high exaggerated knee kicks while checking the mirror. When I asked what he was doing, he said he was just making sure they fit right. My dad called me 3 days later for no particular reason and mentioned offhand that he really liked him. Said he was a good man. Said it with this weight behind it, like he was telling me something he'd been sitting on for a while. I posted in the group again for the first time in 2 years. Said I thought I might be getting engaged on Valentine's Day and I was trying not to get my hopes up, but my gut had been telling me something for weeks and I couldn't ignore it. And someone commented that the knee kicks in the pants were the funniest thing they'd read all week. Someone else said the signs were obvious and to update them. Yesterday he picked me up in the button-up shirt. He had flowers. We walked through the botanical garden in the cold like 2 people who had nowhere else they'd rather be. He led me to my favorite spot near the back, the one with the old stone bench and the willow tree, and I thought he was just being sweet because he remembered. He got down on one knee on the first try. Pants fit perfectly. I said yes before he finished the sentence. Last night I lay in bed staring at the ring on my hand, thinking about the girl who almost sent that 18th message, who almost went back to something small and painful because she was convinced it was the best she'd ever get, who stood in a venue 2 years ago watching her ex across the room and thought she was about to make a terrible decision right up until a better man walked through the door. The group post I made 2 years ago was about not understanding why it gets harder before it gets easier. Now I know. It gets harder right before it stops mattering. Right before something real shows up and makes you realize the thing you were holding on to wasn't love. It was just the last thing you'd known. I'm so glad I stayed on that side of the room.